What's a good word, everyone? It's your boy DKB here. I just want to say thanks for all the support. The channel's been steadily growing, and the number you see below, you can drop a text, shoot a voicemail, any ideas, topics, collabs, etc. you guys want to see. I'll include them in future videos and live streams, and I'll catch you again. Be easy. What's a good word, Jets fans? It's your boy DKB here. We're talking about our third player drafted from our 2024 draft class in running back Braelon Allen, aka Agent Zero. And this was a guy that I was thoroughly impressed with, not just throughout the entirety of the offseason, where if you just listen to the praise between rookie minicamp, OTAs, training camp, you would definitely think he's the next coming of a Derrick Henry and Adrian Peterson, a Chris Johnson type player from a hype perspective. And I don't think he did anything to necessarily quell a lot of that during the regular season. Not saying, of course, that he went out there and put up 1,000 yards or anything crazy, but he did just enough, maybe you can argue even more, to make you believe you may have the beginnings of a tandem that we saw with the Lions with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, which would be a huge win from a day 3 prospect. So nonetheless, let's go ahead and dive into all of the things here. We're talking about our 4th round pick, 134th overall. One of the things that I'll touch on here in the beginning is the youth factor. And to me, age is always a critical component when it comes to evaluating the talent here, because you want to know, do you have a young guy that's outperforming expectations based on his age from a physicality standpoint in the game? Or do you have a guy that's maybe 24, 25, 26 that has been in college for a long time, has ample life experience, should be dominating these guys that don't have the same level of grown man strength as guys that would be in their mid-20s would be, right? Already in prime age range. So with that said, Braelon Allen's been impressive from day one. A 17-year-old that's in a power conference from Wisconsin, dominating guys that are 3, 4, 5 years ahead of him, and in some cases, considering COVID and senior players, as I mentioned, 24, 25, maybe even 26. He put up over 1,200 yards his rookie season, and even though his career probably finished on a bit of a downward trajectory, he still put up extremely impressive numbers with Wisconsin, and that's factoring in a coaching change, which means opinions on players could definitely change drastically enough, but they still went with him as their bell cow. And him switching from a gap power scheme to a zone run also didn't really help him out a ton, just when you think about the build, how you expect him to run and play. And really, I think it also ended up benefiting him more than anything, because you've seen a lot of, even in his rookie year, fleet foot for his size, right? This is a guy that has excellent foot speed. He's able to outrun some people, which I think is a little bit surprising. And then he, of course, can power through and punch you in the mouth. So all of that being thoroughly impressive, and considering the fact that he turned 21 maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago now, he went out there and did some things in his rookie year that I think really impressed me. I thoroughly remember a couple of games where he really just squared guys up, lined them up, and he was able to run through them, shrug them off, and throw himself into maybe 2 or 3 other guys while grinding out 4 or 5 yards. So he has an element of his game I really, really love when I think about some of the better running attacks that we've had under guys like Chris Ivory or Sean Green, and I think it's a huge component and advantage for us going into these future years with him, just because you think about the lighter defensive players that are coming in at that secondary level, the linebacker spot, the safeties being lighter, cornerbacks not being aggressive in the run game. That gives you a huge opportunity to scheme things to give him an advantage on the first line of defense and have him just feast in that second and third level. So one of the numbers that impressed me from his college season, now he averaged, I want to say it was 6.8 yards for his career. Against 8-man boxes, he actually averaged 6.9 yards per carry, which is insane. I would consider these explosive gains, but in the classic sense of it, that's not the case, right? I think they classify those as rushes of 15 plus yards or more. But Braelon Allen has essentially dealt with what Breece Hall, at the collegiate level anyways, what Breece Hall has dealt with for the entirety of his career, and he put up phenomenal superstar type numbers. And again, I think you've seen a lot of those same elements on display in his rookie year here, where there were multiple games where we really relied on his brutality, his physicality to go out there and help us churn out yards and continue to keep some plays in motion or series in motion instead of just going continuously 3 and out. Now, I particularly like paying attention to the press conferences over the course of a rookie year, see how things develop and kind of how their mindset changes as the season progresses. And of course, the year-end interviews are always fantastic as well. But there was 3 things that stood out to me for what he commented. In the beginning, he spoke about wanting to enhance his receiving ability because he knows Rodgers has a propensity for wanting to get the ball out quickly, which means quick passing game, and running backs are going to be able to benefit from that quite a bit. And he didn't have a ton of targets in college, so nobody really knew what it was going to look like. But going back to the offseason, that was one of the most hyped factors about him. He was catching everything under the sun. He was obviously still being able to go out there and show how dynamic he is after the catch, but it was something that nobody really knows, right? And considering you don't have a running back on our roster that's necessarily known as a route runner, right? And I think of the Alvin Kamaras of the world, and I know that's top tier, but just kind of what my thinking is on the matter. You don't really have that caliber of running back on the roster. So this was a pleasant surprise by all factors, and I think he definitely checks that box off. He did talk about hitting the rookie wall, and we can't forget that, in my opinion, running backs maybe have the hardest time other than defensive players trying to acclimate to the NFL, just in terms of a wholesale thinking, because you got defenders that are trying to tee off on you. You may have already played 13-ish games, depending on if you made the playoffs or not. And then you've been prepping the entirety of the offseason to get ready for the draft, the combine, and now you're going to be taking a beating even further in the offseason and into the regular season. But he was able to play in all games, which is a huge plus for us. And even though there was a couple lulls in the season for him where I don't think he shifted the needle per se, I think a lot of that was more so based around the coaching staff and them not fully utilizing him to the advantages that we really could have had. And then one of his final comments towards the end of the year was he wanted to make sure going into year 2, he focuses on consistency. He didn't really call out wanting to work on his hands or speed or getting stronger, anything like that. He just wants to play at an elite level more consistently to be able to make sure that the Jets always have an ace up their sleeve or somebody that they can truly rely on game in, game out, week in, week out, play-by-play basis, etc. And he feels like he has, just because he's a freak athlete for the size and what he brings to the field, he has the opportunity to do so. I know I remember seeing Ken Henry tweet out that he's him based on what he saw during his time at Wisconsin. And if you get from a mental standpoint and maybe just the perception of it, right, if you get the rare anomaly that is Derrick Henry and you get kind of the sign off from him for another guy that could bring a similar-ish type build, that's a plus. Now, one of the things that really stood out during his rookie season for us, he converted 3rd and 1s every time. He got 9 opportunities to do so, and he helped us move the ball each and every time. And to take it a step further, he converted 11 of his 12 carries, which was a 91.7% rate, which was the best, not amongst just rookies, but all NFL backs, and is one of the best numbers between the years of 2021 and 2024. So this was something that felt like, for a rookie to have a role which is hard enough to earn in year 1, the Jets should have relied on him 100% of the time, at 90% plus at best. But we did a lot of right in the hot hand. Breece Hall, universally, it was been considered in multiple interviews a workhorse style back by Robert Saleh in this regime, and it didn't seem like they really wanted to step back from that and allow some other running backs to flourish, if you will. So this is a situation where I think if you're looking at this objectively for Aaron Glenn and his staff, you take this and say, he's definitively going to be our guy here. And you could see a lot of those same elements again occur between Jahmyr Gibbs, between David Montgomery, when the Lions were working with their running back. So a clear defined role is a huge plus. And again, he offers one of the best skill sets because he can operate between the tackles at a high level. He can operate outside of the tackles, being able to run away from some guys that you may not expect him to. He can punch through people. He can stiff arm people, put the shoulder down, carry people with him, and he's able to catch the ball out of the backfield and provide that for you as well. And even though this wasn't a calling card for him at Wisconsin, I've seen it on display during the offseason. His pass blocking ability. He can go out there and really just stonewall somebody if he wants to and flatline them. And that also is going to be a huge plus. So he has the makings of probably being one of our best third down backs since Ty Johnson left for us. And it's going to come in a completely different style of play, which should be a huge plus once again. Braelon Allen was one of the few guys that also made his feelings known about the Aaron Glenn hire. And he just tweeted out a couple fire emojis, but it's a huge thing. He's coming off of a pretty rough rookie year where you are, again, going into a losing culture. You weren't really able to help shift the needle, which is hard to do as a running back, but especially more so if you aren't the starting running back. And really, it just felt like nobody on that offense really ever clicked. Nothing ever really flowed well outside of maybe a game or two here and there. And if you're looking at this and you're Braelon Allen, you're saying, I have Aaron Glenn, which is a guy that has preached accountability. He's made it known that he knows how to operate on both sides of the ball. This is a guy that will make sure I'm getting my job done and doing whatever I need to do to see the field and be a significant piece of this roster and any success that we have. But then you have him bringing over Tanner Engstrand, and he's got a front row view to what it looks like to incorporate running backs in the passing attack and just as a whole coordinating a passing offense, but just overseeing the league's number one offense in terms of scoring points and what it could look like to have an exceptional talent like Braelon Allen in his array of weapons. Huge opportunity for us. I think Braelon Allen I wouldn't say he's a breakout candidate just because you're going to have that Breece Hall barrier in front of him, but he's a guy that if he can end up going into some kind of 50-50 timeshare with Breece Hall, I think you're going to see huge returns for us. In fact, we did see super early flashes from him as well, right? You look at the Broncos game, you look at the Patriots, the Titans game where he had, I believe, his first touchdown of the season, but also his first multi-touchdown game, and that actually ended up earning him the NFL Pepsi Rookie of the Week award. But as mentioned, there was a little bit of a lull during his season. There were times where it just seems like he kind of got phased out of the offense after he put up one of the best games of his career, or he was being a consistent, efficient impact performer, and it looks like he got opportunity stripped from him. Now, part of that is coaching staff, part of that is being blown out in the first half of games and struggling to get him incorporated when you're trying to make sure you get Breece Hall underway. But we can't forget, and I remember doing a short for this, there was a week, let's call it 5 weeks or so, where Breece Hall was doing so bad and Braelon Allen was doing so well in his limited opportunities that we had the conversation that maybe we should move to Braelon Allen becoming our starting running back. And there was definitely a lot of numbers to back that up. Ultimately, on his rookie season, 17 games with 2 starts, 92 rushes, 334 yards for 2 touchdowns and a 3.6 yards per carry average. He tossed in 19 catches for 148 yards and a touchdown and contributed 283 snaps to the offense, which was good for about 27% of the total. PFF, by the way, also seems like they really liked him, at least from a rushing grade standpoint. But I think we also have to give him kudos for not putting the ball on the ground. 0 fumbles for the year. So all in all, from a day 3 prospect, a running back going into an offense where you have Breece Hall, considered a top 5 running back in the NFL at that time, and maybe still so in other people's opinions, there was going to be limited opportunities. There was going to be the understanding that he's a rookie. He's going to hit the wall at some point. There may be an adjustment period. Nobody really knew what he was going to be, especially since he kind of shrugged off the combine, dealing with an injury he's trying to recover from as well. But ultimately, there was a lot of question marks going into this. And if you objectively just looked at this and said, the Jets are taking him for being a bit of a freak at his position, we'll just see how they make it work, you could have sold me on that either way, but I would have expected a slower start to his career than what he's put on display now. So the needle's moving up. I think when you look at Olufashanu, arrow pointing up, you look at Corley, arrow pointing down, Braelon Allen pointing that needle back up, having 2 impact rookies out of 3 so far is a pretty solid day in the draft. So let me know what you guys ultimately think about Agent Zero, though. What are your expectations for him in year 2? And I'll catch you guys again. Peace.